Good morning, I'm Pastor Dustin Abbott from Emmanuel Lighthouse United Pentecostal Church here in Petawawa, Ontario, Canada, and I want to start by wishing you all a very happy Canada Day. July 1st is the day that traditionally we celebrate the nation of Canada, and as a new Canadian citizen, I became a Canadian citizen late in 2018. I am happy to celebrate my adopted land and adopted country and what it represents. And that is a big part of what I want to share with you here today. And I'm going to give you a bit of a scriptural example, and then I want to come back and tie things up to the present to maybe give you a little bit of context here today. So I'm going to read to you Psalm 137 in its entirety. It's a psalm that I have preached from a number of times before, and not in a positive light, because in Psalm 137 we see the mentality, the attitude of some people, and I want to emphasize some people, in the midst of the Babylonian captivity. And so let's take a look at the tenor of this psalm, which lacks, as you are going to see, some of the uplifting quality that we tend to see in the Psalms. It says, "By the rivers of Babylon, there we sat down, yea, we wept when we remembered Zion. We hung our harps upon the willows in the midst of it. For there those who carried us away captive asked of us a song, and those who plundered us requested mirth, saying, Sing us one of the songs of Zion. How shall we sing the Lord's song in a foreign land? If I forget you, O Jerusalem, let my right hand forget its skill. If I do not remember you, let my tongue cling to the roof of my mouth. If I do not exalt Jerusalem above my chief joy. Remember, O Lord, against the sons of Edom, the day of Jerusalem, who said, raise it to its very foundation. O daughter of Babylon, who are to be destroyed, happy are the one who repays you as you have served us. Happy the ones who takes and dashes your little ones against the rock." And there the psalm ends. Not exactly any kind of swing towards hope or praise or majesty or mercy. You can tell this is not a psalm that was written by David, because David shows those deep swings of despair at times, but he'll always pivot at some point to worship of God and a recognition that even in the darkest of hours, that God is worthy of praise and that God is the source of deliverance. Instead, this psalm ends with a note of revenge, rejoicing in that the damage that would be done to the Babylonians like it was done to them themselves. Happy are the one that dashes thy little ones against the stone. Not exactly an uplifting message, a message of revenge rather than a message of mercy. And this, in actuality, it runs completely contrary to what the prophet Jeremiah told them that they should do when they went into captivity. In Jeremiah chapter 29 and verse 7, he's talking to them about, already in this context, about the way that they should behave when they go into captivity. That he lets them know that it's not going to be forever. There's a 70-year time period that's been prophesied that will be attached to it. Then there will be a return to Israel. But he says in the midst of this, he tells them to go, to live their lives, to plant crops, to build houses, to understand that this situation's not going to turn around in a week or a month or a year, but they need to settle in for the long haul. But then he says in verse 7, he says, "And seek the peace of the city where I have caused you to be carried away captive, and pray to the Lord for it. For in its peace you will have peace." It's a really wise piece of advice. Not an easy piece of advice, but a wise one. Because it lets them know that, yes, you're going into a pagan land. Yes, there are going to be flaws, there are shortcomings, but pray for the success of that place. Pray for its peace. Pray for its prosperity. Not based on its perfection or its worthiness, but for the simple reality, that's where you live. And its peace, its prosperity is your peace and your prosperity. If you pray for it to benefit, then you will benefit as a citizen thereof. And we see in Psalm 37 this group of people that's doing the exact opposite. Here is an opportunity to witness, to sing the songs of Zion, to share the praises of Jehovah, and their response is, no, we're not going to sing. No, we won't play our music. We'll hang our harps upon the willows, and we are going to lament and mourn over what we have lost. We're going to obsess with the past, the way that things used to be, and our only thoughts for the future are thoughts of revenge against those who have done us wrong. There is nothing uplifting or building about this psalm. It just speaks of the language of people who are obsessed with the past and want revenge. They're not singing songs of praise. They're not worshiping. They're not rejoicing. They've hung their harps on the willows and refused to play them. This Canada Day and Independence Day about to come in the United States marks an interesting turn, not one for the better, I believe, in which over the last few years there has been an intensified attack upon the value and the merit of Canada and the United States, an attack against Western civilization in general, and an attempt to go back and to rebrand and to rewrite history, to make it all about oppressors and those with no redeeming qualities, using the morality of today as a metric to go back and to judge people who lived in a very different time, in a very different world, without any kind of context about the world they lived in, or the values that they have, and certainly no recognition of the fact that they too could turn and judge our modern culture in so many ways for our sinfulness, our immorality, our decadence. And so it's a very, very wicked movement that highlights sometimes some very real flaws. Certainly history is full of imperfect people and full of people who did do wrong things, even if the sum total of their life was positive. They were flawed individuals. All have sinned and come short of the glory of God. And so the modern movement is that if you can find anything with which to tear down by, you should tear it down, whether it's a statue or a memory or the name on a college or a town, that it should be torn down, it should be destroyed, because these were imperfect people. They're not heroes. They are flawed, they're wicked, and they're bigots, and they're homophobes, and on the list goes. It seems like those who ascribe to this philosophy, they want to act as if there is nothing to celebrate about Canada. And in many cases, there are places that are kind of dominated by these movements where they want to cancel Canada Day. They want to cancel Independence Day. And instead of celebrating the nations that have given us so much, each and every one of us, they want to tear them down. They want to destroy them. They want to say there is no reason to celebrate these hateful places. But they don't offer any kind of alternate positivity. It's all about destructiveness. It's looking at the past only through the frame of the damage that has been done, the wrongs that have been committed, the harms that have been accomplished. And it's not to say that we should gloss over those things or pretend that they don't exist. It's not to say that we shouldn't strive to be better, to grow, to mature. But at the same time, if all you have is an obsession with the past and a hatred for those that have come before, and your only thought for the future is revenge and trying to destroy very often those who have not directly harmed you in any way, shape, or form, but rather an obsession over past wrongs that say, in the present, I want to do damage for the future. The only way to right the past wrongs is to perpetrate new wrongs in the present. Obviously, that's not the message that Scripture is teaching. And I certainly don't want my life to be either dominated by a past full of hatred and regret and recriminations, and a future that is dominated by thoughts of revenge. But rather, I want to live in a present where I recognize that every good and every perfect gift comes from God. And so there are things that are worthy of celebration this Canada Day, this Independence Day. We have inherited so many things. And let us not forget that people are still in droves trying to come to these lands, to these countries. There is a mass influx of immigration, and there is very, very little immigration of people that are leaving these countries, going to some place that is better. You see, that's the trap that we never really consider. We talk about how terrible our nation is, but what's the better nation? What place would you prefer to be instead? What nation has a perfect history, uncheckered by any kind of flaws or bigotry or wrongs committed? The truth of the matter is that we live in a fallen world, full of fallen people and in fallen nations. And ultimately, our hope is only in Jesus Christ. When He sits upon the throne and He rules the nations, then they will beat their swords into plowshares and they will learn war no more. But it's not until Jesus Christ sits upon the throne. So for us, I believe as we celebrate, we have to find the balance. Yes, there are people I think that are worthy of celebration, not because they were perfect or did everything right or had no flaws, but because the sum total of their lives was producing something good and positive for us that we reap the benefits of. The life of King David was full of flaws and offenses that he committed against other people, and yet we celebrate him because the sum total of his life was he that was a man after God's own heart. And if God could celebrate David, a fallen and flawed individual, then I think that there's room for us to celebrate our great nation today and to celebrate its goodness, not to be blind to its faults, not to say that there's nothing to strive towards bettering or improving, but a recognition that those that are wanting to tear down, they're not offering to build up anything better. They just want to destroy. They've hung their harps upon the willows and they refuse to sing any song of praise. Their only words are words of revenge. That's not the way I want to live my life, and it's certainly not the country that I want to live in. So today, I celebrate Canada, not for its perfection, but rather because of the promise that it's had and the goodness that it has done for so many, and the opportunity it provides me to spread the gospel, to reach people that I care about, to raise a family, and to have a pretty great place to live in the meantime. So happy Canada Day. Be blessed.